Hey guys, quick disclaimer before you start this video. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. It's not as smooth as other subjects that I normally cover. I'm also learning all of this stuff, so you might see some backtracking, some going back and forth. It's part of my learning process. Hopefully you guys can learn from it as well. And yeah, that's it. Enjoy. To the next part. Welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're gonna continue with the smoke bomb, and I must warn you guys, this is the first time I'm trying it, so there might be a couple of like going back and forth. I like to be very transparent with you and like not trick you. Like, of course I could like do this like 100 times beforehand and then make sure it's perfect, but I'd like to show you that everyone goes through this. Like, we are gonna be learning and you're gonna be making mistakes. So yeah, so first things first, if we take a look at the render right now, we have this textures and render, so we have this nice little animation. Now, well, there's one problem that I found. I did practice just a little bit because I got stuck halfway through the last recording, and there's a problem with the colliders. So this smoke bomb right here, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but it has a lot of information from the simulation, from the bullet system, and from a lot of other things that we don't really need. And since this is actually an alembic cache, like it's like bringing information from the sphere, we can't use it inside of the Bifrost simulation, or at least not in any way that I know right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go here and I'm going to re-import the asset that I used to texture, because I still have the original smoke bomb that I used to texture. So this one right here. And this one, of course, the imported smoke bomb, are actually weird. File import. I think since it has the same name, we might have an issue there. Yeah. So since it's the same name, oh no, it's down here. Silly me, it doesn't have the same. So there we go. So now, since they share the same pivot point, I can actually do the same thing that I did with that locator. Remember? So I can grab this guy, and then that's driver driven, and say constraint and do a parent constraint. So now this smoke bomb, we can hide it, and even though it's hidden, it will still animate and move, and we can assign the new material. So now we have pretty much the same thing, like the same animation and everything, but this is the actual like geo, let's call this geo bomb, okay? So that geo bomb that we have right there, super important. So perfect. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna create a cylinder, which is gonna be my emitter, my smoke emitter, and I'm gonna make it really small and get it in here. So inside the little like tourist thing right there. Perfect. So that we're gonna call smoke emitter, and we're gonna go into Windows, Bifrost graph, and we're gonna create a new graph, which is this one that I have right here. So we know that things are going to go in the graph and then things are going to go out of the graph. If you haven't seen the Bifrost video, go check the one that we did for the flag, because that's I show some of the principles over there, and also on the live stream, which you can also find on our videos. We went over, like I explained a little bit of what the nodes were doing. So I'm going to press tab and I'm going to go for this basic aerograph, which is our basic aerograph. It's anytime you want to do smoke or like fluffy things, this one works perfectly fine, and we're going to explode it. And these are the three nodes that we need. The first node is all about the smoke, like how is the smoke or the air going to be working. The second one is how is this thing going to be interacting with other elements, the collider. And finally, specific settings about the solver that needs to be tweaked so that we get our proper like elements. So who is going to be emitting the smoke? Of course, the smoke emitter. So I'm just going to bring it this thing, middle mouse drag, and we're going to connect this into the geometry of the source air. If you do that, you're immediately going to get smoke over here. At least not in the first frame, and not until you connect the area volume out here. But once we connect these things down here, and remember, when we're using Bifrost, it's very important to check the playback speed to play every frame free. If you start scrolling here, you're going to see very vaguely, but it's there. I think it's there. The smoke. One thing, we need to like parent this thing to the smoke bomb. So there we go. So I know that's barely perceptible, but I can assure you it's there, and I can assure you because if we go here and we change the density of the smoke to, I don't know, like 200, there it is. See that? It's there. It's there. It's just barely visible. And the reason why it's barely visible is because the object is super small. So it's leaving a really small trail of smoke. And this again has to do with scales. Scales are everything in the 3D world, and especially in simulation. So if we go into the aerial solver settings and we check the size of the scene, you're going to see that right now the scene units in meter is 1. So that means that each grid size is counting as a 1 meter. So this thing is like not the proper size. I was trying to go the real route, which would be like my scenes are in centimeters, which would be 0.01, but that's too small, so I'm gonna go 0.1, okay? So we're gonna say scene units in meters 0.1. Even though I know that this is supposed to be centimeters, I'm gonna say 0.1. And now, as you can see, when we start moving, when we start scrolling, we get a nice smoke trail going from our nice little element, which is great. However, there's a couple of things that I don't like. Right now it's a little bit too dense, of course, and it's not colliding properly with the rest of the elements. That's why we needed to bring this geobomb here. And you can use this geobomb or you can create like new colliders. I'm just gonna bring this thing in, and we're gonna use this as a collider. Now, the reason is because we use the bullet solver. If you hand animate all of this, you're not even gonna have to do any of this. But the problem is I can't bring this one right here. See, it doesn't work because this is an alembic shape. It's like bringing other things that I honestly don't understand, like fully understand why it's not working. But the thing is now it should be working. So now it should be using this geometry collider to bring to make the smoke work from where it's supposed to work. So now, as you can see, the smoke gets pushed out of the little sphere, and it just like remains outside of the sphere. We can play right here, and you can see how it remains outside of the sphere as best as it can. Whoop. And then it falls, and it creates a little like fog element right there. And look at that, great, right? Now we should also add this plane into our colliders. So let's just plug it there, so that when the smoke lands on the floor, we get this. Okay, the smoke lands, and it won't go like through, or shouldn't be going through the plane. Now I think this one, the scales and freeze transformation is super important. So let's freeze the transformation there. I don't remember. We didn't freeze the transformation on this meter. That's also important. So let's freeze the transformation there. And this one shouldn't have any transformations except for the movement. So scales should be always very, very important there. Now we should be able to play this. And then there's the little smoke, and then we flow. I'm not sure why not getting the trail anymore though. I didn't really change anything. Could it be this collider? Let's try. Let's delete this collider for just a second, and let's see if that's what was messing the trail. Yeah, okay, so the plane is messing the trail. I'm not sure why though. So let's keep it simple. We only need a plane down here, right? So what we can do is let's just add another plane that's gonna work as our floor plane. Let's call this floor plane. And I like to call this guys proxies. So when something's not working, if you can simplify it and make it easier for Maya to like do the proper calculations, that usually works better. So there we go. And let's see if it works nice. There we go. So we get the trail, and when this thing hits the ground, oh, we even get like a nice little poof there. Perfect. So there's a little bit of a scale mismatch there again. So freeze transformation. Let's go back and let's take a look now. Okay, so there seems to be like a box. So my understanding here is that the collision preset is doing something weird. So I'm gonna do something again different. I'm just gonna grab this plane again, delete it. Let's try with just a box. We're gonna use a box as our floor. So we're just gonna bring this thing to the floor there. Freeze the scale. Freeze the transform, sorry. Bring the cube here. And that cube is going to be our collider, not the floor plane. There we go. So something like that. Let's delete this input as well. We don't need it. And let's give this thing a shot. So now we do get the trail. And it seems like we do get the, yeah. Because on that little like bump, like that thing right there, that's not the floor. That's like the it's like the little poof that we left there when we stopped. So there we go. That looks cool. So the little poof there, that looks interesting. We are even pushing the poof up, so that's quite nice. So let's add a couple of stuff here on the smoke to make it look a little bit better. I really like the density. I think we can make it a little bit denser. Usually this like smoke bumps have like a really dense air. So we were at 200 density. Let's go 400 density. But let's go here on where it's born. So when this thing is born, as you can see here, we have initial speed direction. So when this thing is born, we can make it go like up or somewhere. Like we're pushing this, and we can also change how this thing is being born. Right now, it's set to rate. So every single moment of the animation, this thing is just like adding more and more and more. I'm gonna change this to max, so that it is always born with the max density, because we're seeing it fall down, right? So we should be seeing like the trail of the smoke. And I'm also gonna change the rate. No, the rate is set to max. Sorry, the speed was set to rate, and the fog density is gonna set to max. So now we're gonna have the full density from the very beginning, because it's gonna be out of camera, right? So when we hit play, we're always gonna have the same amount of like smoke. You can see how it goes there. Whoa, that looks cool, but that's way too much. It's way too dense. Let's go back to 100. We're also gonna be able to control this with the what's the word? Wait, what happened? Why did this break? 100 was too much? We were at 200, weren't we? There we go. Okay, seems like we need 200, but 200 is way too much. That's still like a super huge poof. Okay, let's change this fog density back to rate. Okay, let's increase the fog now. Let's see what we get. And as we mentioned on the flag one, this is a lot of like trial and error. That looks a lot nicer. Yeah, that looks cool. And then that thing gets like stuck on the ground. And then once it like goes around the ground. Oh, my bad. Okay. So I like how this is going, but the smoke is really like uniform, right? So let's give it a little bit of variance. And this is where, again, checking my notes, we have something called influences, which we can use to change the way that the smoke is going to be behaving. So there's two influences that are really good, which is one is the vorticity. So it's called vorticity influence. There we go. And the other one's a drag influence. Okay. So usually, and we saw this on the flag, we can add the influences, both of them here on the solver settings at the, where's the word? Where's the element? We can plug them in on the source air, sorry, here on the properties, right, of the source air, because they're gonna change the way that this is gonna work. However, you can also connect them in parallel, which is really cool. And here on the vorticity, let's try to see how this looks. I'm gonna like lock this cube because I'm getting like really frustrated. There we go. Sorry. There we go. So now we're gonna play this, and the vorticity and the density, as you can see there, will change the way these things look, which is looking quite nice. I do think right now that one of the problems is that the fog density rate thing, I don't like it. I don't like the rate thing because it's going like really low. So let's see, what else can we do? There's also another influence that's really cool, which is called the dissipation influence, which, as the name implies, will dissipate the smoke a little bit faster. So it will kind of like disappear in a nicer way. Like, that looks pretty damn cool, but I still think that we're missing some density. Like we lose a lot of the volume down there. So let's see if we can increase the density here. We can actually add a random density node or random density value. So there's one node called the very source property. There we go. So if we connect our smoke emitter to this very source property and then connect it to the source air, we can change here on the property the density. So it's very important that we check the proper name. So it's fog density. So here in the property, we're going to say fog density. And we can randomize the value of that element on each frame so that we get like different amounts of smoke. So we were using, I believe, 300 density on the, well, was that 300 on this new one? Let's see. Yeah, so we were using 300. So what we can say here on the very source property, we can say a minimum of, let's say, like 250 and a maximum of like 500. Let's see how that works. So now what's going to happen is every single frame it will change the value of the fog density, but we need to change this rate because otherwise it's going to be flowing between one and the other. So we're going to change this to max, and what should happen is on each frame it will grab like a random number and it will be varying the whole thing. We're getting this super huge like smoke thing again. That's really weird. I'm not sure why we're getting it with the max. Okay, let's try the mask and let's try going like really low. Let me delete this one because maybe the max it is the right way to do it, but maybe I'm doing it in the wrong like section. Okay, so 50 it's a lot closer to what I'm looking for. Okay, so we're gonna use max, but we're gonna use the vary thing that I was just mentioning, vary source property. And we're gonna vary 50 is probably gonna be our like max number. And we're gonna go from like 10 to 50 on the again fog density. There we go. There we go. So technically we should be getting like different amounts of density throughout the element. Sometimes we'll get like bigger poofs and sometimes we'll get smaller poofs, which it seems to be working, and that looks nice. And then we get like a nice cloud there, and when this thing rolls over, we should see like the smoke like clumping there again. Okay, so one thing that's happening there is there seems to be like a smoke ceiling right now, and the smoke can't go anywhere due to the temperature of the smoke. So that's a problem. Now I do want to add a little bit more variation, so I'm gonna go here into the vorticity, and I'm gonna increase the vorticity to like 10, and the drag I'm gonna lower it to like 1 because the drag might also be a factor that's making things like not flow the way we want. There we go. That looks a little bit more flowy. We get there. We keep expelling like smoke. And I'm looking at the roll there because I want to make sure that the smoke keeps rising. So yeah, as I mentioned, guys, this is a lot of like trial and error until things get like really nice. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna stop the video, I'm gonna play around with the settings, find something that I like, and once I get there I'll show you the result. Got it? So give me just 1 second and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I was able to get a nice effect right here, and I'm going to show you the 3 parameters that I changed, which I think are really important. So as you can see, the simulation now looks pretty cool. We get that nice poof at the end, and then it rolls out. The smoke is actually being condensed on the little like element, and then when it's released, look at this. When the ball like finishes its roll, you're gonna see like a big plume of smoke just like falling or going up, which was the one that was being reserved, right? So I think it looks pretty cool. You can see it gets like really thick right there because of all that smoke that got like condensed close to the sphere, and now we get this wispy smoke. So yeah, there we go. That's like where we're gonna stop it. Well, not stop right this, but one thing that we can do, or the ones that I want to show you, there's 2 things. First, the one thing that I forgot to mention is that if you're ever like questioning what the hell these nodes do, you can go into the info channel and it will show you and explain to you what the nodes do, and it's pretty handy. So there's 2 things that I changed. First, on the parameters, I went for a really low variation here on the density, because on the solver here I went for a 0.1 element. So I'm actually gonna bring this to like I don't know, like 0.01 and 0.2, I would say, and that might give me like a nicer effect. So there we go. That way it's not like super dense as what we had before, and it looks a little bit more like what this little smoke bomb might be able to produce. Now the second thing that I changed is I went to the air solver settings, and you can change the type of smoke. It was by default on smooth, that's why we were getting like this really smooth effect, and now I changed this to wispy. You can also do like BC, and BC is like I think BC is like the most like intense one, and you're gonna see the smoke like change really quickly. There we go. So it's a lot of noise, a lot of stuff. We got like the vorticity and stuff helping. Now you can already see here like the size of the voxels, right? Like the size of the voxels is quite big. So that's why we're not getting as much detail on the smoke, but it's looking quite nice, I would say. So here what we can do now is What else did I change? Oh yes, of course. Remember why the smoke was not rising? Super stupid thing, but it's this thing here right here, the buoyancy, which is where the smoke is going. So it was set to minus 9.8, so it was going down. It was like the smoke was trying to fall into the ground. And in this case, I want the smoke to try to rise into the sky, and that's why I had to change the gravity so that it goes up. So yeah, very, very simple thing. Now let's play around with the material, because right now we're seeing the default material. Let's let the simulation run for a little bit, because I want to talk about something about the material. There we go, like right there on the poof. I think it looks pretty cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the hyper shade right here, and we're gonna create a new material, and we're gonna create, of course, an Arnold AI atmosphere, no, a standard volume. This one right here. Now, by default, if you try applying this volume to the effect, it's not gonna work. You're gonna have to go here to the presets, and you're gonna go here default Bifrost area and hit replace. And what this will do, as you can see, it will change the density channel to the voxel fog density, and it will change the emission and the temperature to the voxel temperature. If you do not change those parameters, those channels, Bifrost won't know that this thing is working. So I'm gonna call this M smoke like Nexttut. There we go. And then what I can do is I can in the Bifrost graph, in a very similar fashion, I can just middle mouse and drag this material right here. It's going to be a material, and there is a node called apply, or if you just write like material, assign material. There we go. So what we're going to do is whatever is being outputted here, we're going to be applying this volume material right here. And I think it's the geometry, this one right here, and the out geometry goes there. So technically, if my calculation is right, this should be working. Let's let this thing, there we go. Perfect. So now we can do a lot of cool things here on the material. Let me see if we can see them in real time. If you change the color here of the material, well, you're not gonna be able to see, right? So sorry. Let's go here. There we go. So if we go like down here, we can change the density of the smoke. So if we want like a more wispy smoke, we can go here. We got like a super dense smoke. You can start seeing the voxels there. So let's go for a little bit of a wispy smoke, because again, I don't think this like spheres would create as much effect. You can change, of course, the color. So maybe we want like a green color, you know, next to it. Let's go. And let's bring like a nicer, there we go, like a turquoise kind of color. Nice. You can change the temperature, which is pretty freaking cool here. And if you change the temperature, it's like this thing is burning or something. Here in the black body intensity, I think this is the one. But right now, I don't want to mess up with the time. This is more when you want to do explosion. In this case, since this is just like color smoke, this is what I would go for. Now, one thing I do want to do is I want to stop the animation at some point. Maybe when it starts rolling, I want the animation to just stop. So there, I think we need to go here to the area solver settings. And we need to disable the solver at some point. But I'm not sure how to do that though. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to stop the simulation, if I'm being completely honest. Is there a node to stop? No. Let me Google that real quick. There should be a very simple answer. That should be a simple answer. Didn't even need to Google. I was just like looking at the notes, and there we go, use end frame. So my end frame is gonna be frame, let's say 120. So at frame 120, the geometry will stop emitting a smoke. So if we take a look now, this is what we get. So we have this very nice trail going down, the bounce, the nice little poof right there, and then this thing just like rolls a little bit. And right now it's still like emitting smoke, but all of the smoke is getting like condensed on the bottom part of the geometry. And when it releases, you're gonna see like bloof, that big fluff of smoke that just got released. And then frame 120 is gonna arrive very soon. And as soon as it arrives, we will no longer have emission. And as you can see, the emission stops. Now it does stop quite abruptly there, and you can see it changes like really weird. So let me see if we can change the way this thing goes. Maybe change this to, I don't know if I want to change it to rate. Okay, let's try it with the rate. Let's see how rate works now. So that's a lot more like wispy. I mean, it's not bad. Maybe we can increase, because right now, since we are at rate, and the property, even if we're at rate, this thing is like really slow now. So let's do like 1 and 5 on the variation for the density. There we go. That looks a little bit nicer. I'm gonna increase it a little bit more. Let's go 10 and 50. Might be way too much, but let's take a look. Okay, that's better. Yeah, I like that. Now I'm just gonna check the material real quick. Where's the hypershade? There we go. And I'm gonna increase the density. There we go. So the density of the smoke's a little bit better. And I think now, if my calculation is right, we should be able to see like a nice transition from or to the end frame. That way, yeah, things should look a little bit nicer. Let's see. So I'm really worried about that end frame because we're coming from like a big bunch of smoke that right there getting released, and then like going into nothing looks a little bit weird. So maybe this release will be better. Yeah, that looks a lot nicer, a lot smoother. Just like stops combusting, and then we get that nice little plume. Perfect. So let's go to the final section of this thing, which, by the way, we have the camera right here. So panels, look through selected. Let's, of course, let's go to like a nice shot where we can see most of the like smoke plume. There we go. So that way we don't see when the little ball starts or enters. Trying to find the best. So I want to know where this ends. Okay, so it ends right there. So maybe something like this might be cool. There we go. I think that's going to be a nice shot. So the small rolls, and we can see all of the smoke going around the area. Cool. So now let's talk about the cache. We've already talked about this before. But here, after the output or before the output, we can do a file cache, which is going to cache everything. So this is the object that we're going to cache, and the out object is going to go there. And what's the word? You don't want to do that. Okay. We can just write another output. Sometimes the default output behaves weirdly. There we go. Now here, we're going to do a write first. We're gonna be writing this, of course, to our project. So I'm gonna go here to my caches, Bifrost, and I'm gonna add this one called smoke bomb.bob, which is Bifrost, and we're gonna do active frame range. Yeah, let's do active frame range, and we're just gonna hit play. So I think we can do this one. Play forwards. There we go. So now what's happening at this point is we're caching. So every time we move one frame, this information of the simulation is being saved onto our file. And once we end the animation, or when we stop this animation and go back to the write node, we will be able to see this running in real time, which will be very cool. And there's one more thing that I haven't done yet, which I will do, which is I am gonna increase the geometry size. So the voxel size, I'm gonna decrease it so that the resolution and the effects of the wind and the wispy things are even better. But if you want like a very basic smoke, this works. And I'm sorry if this is a little bit long. I know I told you at the beginning that I'm still learning, so I'm just sharing this little activity for you to try out. Hopefully you guys can give it a go. I know it's a little bit like confusing. Hopefully it's not as confusing as I think it will be. But yeah, let's see how this looks as soon as this finishes the animation here. There we go. So we stop, we open the graph, and now technically, I mean, we need to make sure that we do have all of that information. Weird. Let's open the smoke bomb, and if we go to our cache, Bifrost, we should have oh no, we don't have smoke bomb. You know why? Because I forgot a very simple small detail here. We need to add dot hashtag 1 2 3 4. because it needs to save the frame animation. It wasn't saving it, so that's my bad. I'm actually gonna do this already with the geometry thing that I was mentioning. So I'm gonna go here to the area solver settings, or sorry, it's to the source air. You can see the geo detail size is at 0.05. I'm gonna go to 0.01, which again, if you check right here, the resolution or the geo detail is it says here, to improve performance, this can be set higher than the fluid detail if it has low detail. And the fluid detail is the actual element. The finest resolution we turn in front of finest fluid detail of all of, yeah. So the fluid detail size, that's the one that's going to be driving most of the things. So I'm going to say 0.01, which is going to be like 5 times like nicer. It should be 5 times nicer, but it's also going to take 5 times longer. As you can see there, it's taking way longer to simulate because the geometry is a lot smaller. But you can see that everything is looking even like more, like way more exciting. It's not actually looking how I want it though. What are we missing there? Weird, that's weird. So yeah, I mean, the geometry size, it's better. So maybe if the geometry size is better, that means that we need to increase the resolution. A lot of back and forth, guys, a lot of back and forth. But this is how we learn. Let's give it another go. It's really small now. That's really weird. Okay, let's increase the size. Maybe 0.1 was way too much. Let's do 0.03, which should be in between the elements. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Good amount of resolution, good amount of effects. Nice bounce. And remember, this is writing. It should be writing. Like if I check the files right now, I should be able to see the files being written. This looks really close, I think, to the smoke bomb. So yeah, I like it. Let's see how this ends up looking at the end. I love that mix and match of things over there. Almost there, almost there. Be patient or skip ahead. I'm just recording everything to make it simpler, because if I stop the recording and then this thing crashes, I'm gonna just go crazy. There we go. That's the big plume there that got like stuck at the bottom there. And then we're gonna hit frame 120 when this thing stops like emitting things or emitting smoke, which should be a smooth transition. Let's see if we get that smooth transition. It seems like we did. Yes, nice. Look at that, beautiful. And then the plume just keeps going. Great. Great. Let's just wait for this to finish. Almost there, which again, the cache should be writing right now. So all of this should be saved. It's gonna save us quite a bit of time in the rendering. There we go, we stopped, perfect. So let's take a look at the cache real quick. And let's see if we do have the cache. Should be, there we go, smoke bomb, all of the smoke, 160 frames, perfect. So now I'm gonna go back to this guy right here, and instead of saying file cache write mode, I'm gonna say read mode. And technically, if I hit play, it should run fairly quickly. Might not be super quickly, but it should be fairly quickly. And we should be getting the same amount of effects right here. I'm not sure why we lost the color though. That's really weird. That's really weird. But yeah, let's go to like frame 107, as you can see here, and we're gonna get this. So I'm not sure if the file cache should be before or after. Maybe it's before. And this is one of the cool things. We can just like unplug this sort of thing. Out objects, geometry. There we go. There we go. So it's applying the color after the file cache. There we go. So now let's take a look at the render. That's the final step. Final step of this nice little course. Like crash course on Aereo. There we go. Let's do something like that. Let's save before anything bad happens. And let's go Arnold and render. And let's see what we get. Nice. Nice. That's cool. It's really cool. Really noisy. We're gonna have to clean everything up. We have the denoiser. Yeah, if you haven't seen the imagers video, make sure to check it out because we're gonna be using the denoiser for this one. And I actually think maybe I'll crash Maya, but let's give it a go. I actually think we can turn on our GPU in this one and render with GPU. And maybe we'll get like a nicer effect. Because I think I do have the denoiser turned on. And that's why it's taking, yeah, you can see that the denoiser is trying to do its job right there. Let's give it another go. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it, guys. The next thing that we need to do is render the whole sequence. So I do want to show you the whole sequence rendered out because I think that's going to be really, really cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video right now and I'm going to do something that I normally don't do, which is I'm going to edit the video. I'm going to add the animation at the very end so that you guys can see it, okay? So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I'll see you back tomorrow. Tomorrow we start with a new month, new activities, new stuff. So February, we're probably gonna do just like a calendar thing to see what we have. Make suggestions, please, on the comments. What else? What other things you might want to see? Also, make suggestions for Alejandro, who's doing the Blender courses or the Blender videos here for YouTube. If there's specific things about Blender that you might want to learn about, tell us, so that we can prepare all of that content for you guys. So yeah, that's it for me, and I'll see you back on the next one. Make sure to enjoy this animation.